Welcome to the CyberDAP podcast. I'm Daniel Ajiman Prempe, the CyberDAP. This is a calm, plain English look at cybersecurity, risk, and resilience for business leaders. No hype, no fear, just clear thinking about what goes wrong, why it matters, and what to do differently. You approved that board report last quarter. It looked good. Lots of green lights and positive trends. You left the meeting feeling reassured. But did you truly understand the risk omitted? The uncomfortable truth is subtly avoided. There's a quiet truth in boardrooms. Cyber reports are often crafted to avoid difficult conversations, not to provoke essential ones. We focus on showing progress, on highlighting investments, and presenting a picture of control. This isn't always dishonest. Sometimes it's an unspoken agreement. Everyone wants good news. Board members appreciate efficiency. Leaders want to demonstrate competence. This dynamic can create reports that reassure more than they inform. The problem starts with how we define good. Is good a report, one that highlights progress, or is it the one that accurately reflects the full scope of risks and challenges? Often these two definitions clash. We measure what is easy to measure. We report on what reflects positively on our efforts. We focus on compliance checkboxes. We focus on successful projects. We often minimize or abstract away the complex, messy realities of cyber risk. This approach comforts in the short term. It can lead to a sense of false security. Leaders might believe that the organization is truly securing itself. They approve budgets based on these positive reports. They make strategic choices, assuming a level of protection that doesn't fully exist. This quiet misalignment between reported metrics and actual risk posture is dangerous. It prevents proactive action. It delays essential discussions. It means that when an incident inevitably occurs, it comes as a greater shock than it should. Leaders should deeply care about this. You are accountable for the organization's resilience. You cannot make informed decisions if you're working with incomplete or overly positive information. Misleading reports erode trust. They create a culture where bad news is hidden. They delay necessary investments until after a crisis. This approach is not sustainable. It leaves your organization vulnerable. It can damage your reputation and financial health. True leadership means demanding the full, unvarnished truth, even when it's uncomfortable. Imagine Sarah, a new CEO of a mid-sized tech company. She had inherited a well-established cybersecurity program. Each quarter, her CISO, Mark, presented a slick board report. It always began with an executive summary titled Cybersecurity Posture, Strong and Maturing. There were colorful dashboards showing high patch rates. Vulnerability counts trended down. Compliance checkboxes were all marked green. Incident response times were improving. Sarah felt confident. She would nod along, ask a few high-level questions, and approve the budget requests. Mark was clearly doing excellent work. One spring morning, Sarah attended a private, off-the-record industry dinner. She found herself sitting next to John, a CISO from a much larger, more established company. After a few drinks, John spoke about how difficult it was to get boards to understand risk. He openly admitted that most cyber reports were dog and pony shows. They were designed to calm, not to educate. He said he had to fight against the urge to whitewash his own reports. He knew that the actual risk picture was far more complex than any dashboard could show. Sarah listened, a strange unease growing in her stomach. She thought about Mark's reports. They looked just like the ones John was describing. Too clean, too polished. Why were there never any hard choices? No red items that truly worried him. She remembered one slide that showed 0 high-severity vulnerabilities. She had praised Mark for it. But now she wondered, was it truly 0, or were they just not looking in the right places? Or worse, were some things being recategorized to look less severe? The next day, Sarah called Mark into her office. She complimented his work, but then paused. "Mark," she said, "last quarter's report showed 0 high-severity vulnerabilities. Can you walk me through in detail how that number is derived? Not just the dashboard. I want to see the underlying source data." Mark shifted uncomfortably. He explained the scanning tools, the filtering. He eventually admitted that high severity was often recategorized if the vulnerability required user interaction to be exploited, or if it was on a system deemed non-critical by an internal assessment that hadn't been updated in years. He also noted that their most sensitive data, the customer database, was housed on a legacy system that couldn't be scanned by their main tools. This system was never included in the vulnerability counts. Sarah felt a chill. The 0 was true for what was measured, but not for what truly mattered. The reassuring graph she had seen, the one that had made her feel so secure, was hiding a fundamental, unaddressed vulnerability. It wasn't Mark's intent to deceive. He had simply been playing by unstated rules. The rules demanded reassurance over raw truth. This was her pivot moment. She realized that the board reports were not about telling the complete story. They were about managing perception, and that perception was dangerously far from reality. The core leadership lesson here is simple yet profound. What you measure and how you choose to report it fundamentally shapes your understanding of risk and thus your decisions. Many leaders inadvertently create an environment where bad news is disguised or omitted from cyber reports because the organizational culture subtly rewards optimism and reassuring stability. You ask for good news and your team delivers it. This isn't intentional deception. It's an unconscious bias. Everyone wants to perform well. No one wants to be the messenger of grim tidings, especially if those tidings challenge existing assumptions or require significant new investment. This dynamic creates a dangerous gap. The board believes the organization is secure because the metrics say so. The security team works tirelessly but may hide systemic issues to maintain a perception of control. The result is a cycle of reassuring reports that prevent leaders from understanding the true depth of their cyber risks. You approve significant investments based on these reports. You make long-term business strategy decisions based on them. If those reports are incomplete or sugar-coated, your decisions are built on faulty foundations. You might focus precious resources on areas that are already minimally risky, while truly critical vulnerabilities remain unaddressed simply because they aren't showing up in the green dashboard. The insidious nature of this problem is that it feels safe, it feels productive, but behind the veneer of green checks and upward trends, the quiet reality of unaddressed risks continues to grow. Leaders must recognize that their teams are often reflecting the implicit expectations of the boardroom. If you signal that you want to hear positive progress, you will receive it. If you create a space where difficult truths are not only tolerated, but actively sought out, then and only then will your reports begin to tell the whole story. You must confront the discomfort of honest self-assessment. Until then, you're making critical decisions based on a comfortable but ultimately perilous fiction. Here are 3 non-technical leadership actions you can take to ensure your cyber reports tell the full truth. First, shift your focus from what is going on well to what keeps you awake at night. When your CISO or security leader presents, don't ask about the green metrics. Instead, ask them directly, what are the top 3 things that fundamentally concern you about our security posture right now? What are the biggest unknowns? This encourages them to move beyond the polished report. It allows them to speak about the systemic challenges and unquantifiable risks that don't fit neatly into a dashboard. This question signals that you value their expert judgment, not just their ability to present good numbers. It opens the door for a more honest dialogue. Second, demand to see the dirty data behind the clean reports. Don't simply accept aggregated metrics. Ask for a brief, high-level walkthrough of the raw data or the specific criteria used for categorization. For example, if a report states 0 critical vulnerabilities, ask for the definition of critical. Ask for a sample of suppressed alerts or vulnerabilities that were downgraded. You don't need a technical deep dive. You need to understand the assumptions and filters apply. This practice helps uncover where uncomfortable truths might be getting smoothed over. It helps you see what's not being reported, which is often more telling than what is. Third, reward honesty and transparency, especially when the news is difficult. When a security leader brings you a problem or admits to a significant gap, do not react with anger or disappointment. Instead, thank them for their candor. Acknowledge the difficulty of delivering bad news. Frame any issues as opportunities to learn and improve. Create a no-blame environment for reporting. This builds trust. It encourages your team to surface risks early before they become crisis. They need to know that you are committed to understanding the true state of affairs. They need to know that you will support them in addressing those realities, even if it means tough decisions or unexpected costs. We all want to believe everything is under control. We want to see the charts trending up. We crave the reassurance that our investments are paying off. But true leadership isn't about avoiding discomfort. It's about facing reality, even when that reality is complex or unflattering. The reports you're currently receiving are a reflection of the questions you're asking and the culture you have fostered. If you haven't been getting the full, unvarnished truth, it's not always because your team is hiding things. It might be because the system implicitly encourages a less challenging narrative. Take a moment to reflect. When was the last time a cyber report fundamentally changed your perspective on your organization's risk profile, rather than just confirming your existing assumptions? When was the last time an uncomfortable truth was brought to your attention through a standard reporting channel, not an accidental discovery or an external event? Your challenge this week and going forward is to change that dynamic. Ask for the hard truths. Welcome difficult conversations. Create the space for the full story to emerge. Your organization's security depends on it. If this episode was useful, take a moment to reflect on one decision you'd make differently. The CyberDAP podcast is supported by Defend Vista, a cyber resilience firm I founded to help organizations reduce risk calmly and practically. Thanks for listening.